has officially become the 29th state in the US to require a full semester dedicated course just for personal financial literacy. And every single high school student that graduates in the state of Texas from a public high school needs to take it. It is required for graduation. And this is incredible for so many reasons, which should be obvious to most people, but you'll be surprised. I went on Facebook and I saw so many people commenting under the bulletin about the legislation passing or being signed into law by the governor. And so many people were really upset. Like, well, how are you going to pay for this? And why should we require something like this when it's already sprinkled into the economics course? And there were just so many negative comments and questions from people who, I could tell like we're probably not really inside of a high school in so long. The last time they were probably in high school was maybe when they were actually of high school age, when they were a student in high school, which is decades ago. So the way schools are so different today, the way the lives of teenagers today are so different, they need something different. We have to talk to students about money. We can't be ignoring that topic anymore in schools. So I'm really, really glad that the legislation was signed by the governor and is officially making Texas a 29th state. I posted about it on Instagram. I talked about it on my live yesterday. But one of the things that I did not mention, and a lot of people who ask questions or maybe like don't understand how important this is and like just how critical it is that this passed, I wanted to talk about this for that reason, which is that there's a research report that came out from Titan Partners, which specifically takes all of the data, all of the research that has been done about how effective financial literacy education is in high school. And they took all that data together and looked at it and said, all right, basically, if you look at everybody who never took a personal financial literacy class in high school, and then you look at all the people who did get to take a full semester, which is 18 weeks of instruction in personal finance topics, everything from banking and budgeting and investing and credit scores and insurance and taxes, all those topics, right? And you compare the difference between them. The average amount of money that people who did take the class make more compared to those who don't take the class or never get that education, the average amount is $100,000 more over the course of their lifetime per student. Per student. So, the easiest way for a state government to say, we want to make sure that every single constituent that lives in our state gets $100,000 more over the course of their lifetime, it's to say, we're going to require a semester long dedicated personal financial literacy class. Because there's three main reasons why you see that result, why it is that you see $100,000 more for somebody who took the class versus somebody who didn't. And the three main benefits, the three real core reasons why there's that benefit. The first one is because they actually learn how to manage debt. They understand, first of all, what is debt? What is a loan? What are the terms and conditions that come with a loan? What am I doing when I take out a loan? I'm literally borrowing money from this institution and promising to pay it back on time, in full, plus interest, right? So just the dynamics, the vocabulary, the terms and conditions of lending and borrowing, of debt management, that whole concept is taught at such an early age. So by the time the students graduate out of high school, by the time they're in their 20s, they're so much less likely to abuse or misuse credit cards or get into like really unhealthy levels of debt, because they actually understand what a healthy level of debt is, and they know how to run the calculation to say, oh, is this something that I can afford to pay back on a monthly basis? Is my monthly payment going to actually be something that I can afford? Is that realistic, or am I doing too much? Let me look at the compound interest and how it works, and let me look at that calculation and see if that number is doable for me. Most people who never learn about financial literacy, they have no idea. They'll walk into a car dealership or they'll start taking out student loans. They'll use a credit card and they truly don't know. And it's not their fault. They literally have never been taught how compounding interest works on a loan. They have never been taught how to crunch the numbers to see what will your average monthly payment be? What will that monthly amount in dollars be that you have to pay every month if you borrow this much money? And is that realistic or not? So all of that is taught, right? So the number one thing is lower debt. And when you have less debt or lower amounts of debt, the direct benefit of that is less interest fees. So you're paying less money in interest, which means saving yourself thousands and thousands of dollars over the course of your adult life from not giving it away to interest fees on loans and credit cards. So that's a huge number one first reason is debt and interest fees that come with borrowing and loans. Okay. Now, the second reason is also related to debt, which is that when you manage your debt correctly, when you're savvy about the way you move with loans and debt, you actually boost your credit score as a result. If you borrow a healthy amount of money when you need it and you always pay it back on time in full and hopefully with no interest or with very little interest, your credit score gets a huge boost. So now those people who got access to a semester long personal finance class, they not only have less debt and pay lower amounts in fees, but they also have higher credit scores as a direct result of that. So when you have higher credit scores, think about what that's going to do for you for the rest of your adult life. When you have a really high credit score, first of all, approval odds for loans when you do need them is much higher. Second of all, when you do get approved for a really big loan, such as a car loan or a home mortgage loan, the interest rate on that is going to be so much lower, which saves you money on those monthly payments for something like a mortgage, which can take 20, 30 years to pay off. The next thing to know is that not only is your credit score going to lead to higher interest, better deals and lower interest rates when you do get something like a mortgage or a car loan, but the other thing that it leads to is also a lot of times insurance premiums are based on your credit score. So it can also lead to lower monthly payments for premiums on insurance products. So not only are you paying less in debt because you're borrowing less, because you're being smarter about that, you pay less in interest fees, you're saving more on interest, you're getting lower interest when you do get something like a home mortgage, which is decades of your life to repay back. All of these things, higher credit scores leads to lower premium monthly payments. All of this frees up more money or means less money coming out of your pocket that you're giving to banks and institutions for fees, for interest, for all types of things, right? So now all of that frees up, and that adds up to that $100,000 lifetime benefit for actually getting this class versus not ever having been taught any of these lessons or any of these topics, right? So those are the two big things, which both are related to debt and credit. So just off the bat right there, if you're in a school or if you're volunteering somewhere or if you're at your church and you're trying to think about there's a limited time and I only have time to really focus on one thing and I want to help with financial literacy, what's the one most important lesson that I can teach? Based on this research, the one thing that moves the needle the most, the one thing that helps people financially the most over the long run of their adult life is credit. Helping them understand and correctly manage credit and boost up their credit score so they can qualify for really low rates when they do need to borrow large amounts of money, aka when they need to get a home mortgage. Okay. Now, the third reason why it's $100,000 is because the earlier you learn about money and financial literacy, the earlier you are more likely to be exposed to investing, the idea of investing and saving aggressively. So, thinking of like just knowing what is a 401k. And this is so valid because I remember one time I was in a hotel after a teacher training, a workshop that I did. And the janitor, who was an older Black man, he came up to me to say, like, this was such a great event. Like, what were these teachers here for? Like, I heard a lot of financial education that I thought was really great. Tell me about what you do. And then at the end, after I talked to him for a little bit, he looked at me, he said, you know, I really wish that I had gotten this myself because when I was in my early 20s and I started working for this company, they offered me a 401k. And my cousin at the time, who I asked for his advice because I had never heard of it, my cousin told me, don't do that. Don't do the 401k because they're going to take away money from your paycheck. And without understanding the context of why or what that would do for him later in his life, he just listened to his cousin. He didn't sign up for it. And now he was an older male. He was now still working as a janitor. And he literally said to me, I would have been able to retire. I would have been able to retire by now if I had started at that age. And if I just knew that a little tiny piece of my paycheck going into that account and investing every single month, every pay period would have made a huge difference for me. Now he wants to retire. He has to keep working. Who knows for how many more years? Because he was not prepared because he didn't know. So if you're in high school and you get a semester long class about money, you are way more likely to have that exposure to some of the vocabulary, to some of the jargon, some of these words that kind of sound like a foreign language to us, like 401k, mutual fund, company match, index fund, exchange traded funds, expense ratios, all of these words where the longer you go in life without understanding what these words mean or just confronting them straight up, learning what they are, the longer you go wasting precious time that your money could be investing, compounding, growing, and creating wealth for you. So if we start exposing students to that when they're 16, 17, 18 years old, that is so powerful. It adds even more to the savings, to that lifetime amount, which gets you to that six-figure amount, $100,000 for every single person, every single student who does get to sit in a personal finance class for a semester in high school and take that class. They have a lifetime benefit of $100,000 more than their fellow students who unfortunately did not get a chance to take that class. So again, yesterday I talked about the news with Texas, and I think it's so important for all of us to keep spreading this word and this knowledge, because I keep hearing again and again, people keep saying that financial literacy is not taught in schools. Okay, financial literacy used to not be taught in schools, but now this new generation coming up, they are getting it. 29 states require it now. So we got to stop talking that nonsense. We got to stop saying it's not taught in schools. It is. It is actually taught in the majority of states now. And now only more and more states are going to start requiring it, because you don't want to be the state that's falling behind, that's embarrassed, that looks like you are not keeping up, right? Like all these other states are moving forward. They're all modernizing the curriculum. They're all adding financial courses, and your state is not. That's embarrassing. You don't want to fall behind. So I think that the competition to keep up in terms of education, relevant education for the 21st century, not getting stuck still in the 2000s and in the early 2000s and in the 1990s, but thinking about 2020 and beyond, 2025, 2030. How are we going to make sure that students studying in schools during this time, during a post-COVID economy, during the age of AI, how are we going to make sure they're learning things about money that are relevant to them? Because so many teachers, unfortunately, that have taught financial literacy, or that when they picture a financial literacy class in their mind, they think of like teaching them how to write a checkbook, or teaching them how to write a check, or like those lessons, as cute and as fun as it sounds to pull out a checkbook and show them how to sign it and stuff. 90% of the students that I talk to, that I meet when I do the work that I do, they have never seen a check, and they probably will never see a check, because they are doing everything digitally. They're paying their stuff online. They're doing online bill pay. They're doing peer-to-peer payment apps. They're doing investment apps. They're checking their credit score online through the apps. They have online bank accounts that don't even have physical branches. So even lending and borrowing happens online. So even the FAFSA application is online. Even college applications you can submit online. Like, so much of what we as adults who grew up in a world where a lot of stuff was really paper-based, or a lot of stuff was really still in person, face-to-face, we can't get over the fact, or we can't really like picture a world where everything is fully digital. But that's kind of the reality for this next generation, which is why financial literacy education has to keep up, with fintech apps, it has to keep up with the changing laws, with the rules and how different they are every time. You print a textbook, and then the moment it's printed is outdated already, because whatever you wrote in that textbook is not going to be true anymore the moment the laws change, the moment the tax policy changes, the moment that the maximum contribution for the IRA changes, or the increase the 401k maximum contribution. All of these things change every single year. When interest rates change, when the inflation rate changes, when the Federal Reserve changes interest rates, all of these things, you can't print that stuff in a textbook because it changes so quickly. So that's why I think we have to just like lean into the online digital based learning, and we have to really make sure that students of today's age are learning about money in today's age, and how to make digital transactions, how to log into your online bank account, how to make sure that you don't overdraft your checking account, how to make sure that you do online bill pay properly, how to set up automatic recurring transfers to your savings account, how to make sure you have a high yield savings account instead of a regular traditional one. These are all lessons that get taught in that class, but we have to make sure we're doing it right. We can't keep sticking to the old school traditional ways of teaching this, because we have to keep up with the changing times. And honestly, students will call you out. Teenagers, they will call you out. They'll be like, I'm never going to write a check, ma'am, miss. I'm never going to write a check. Like, I'm never going to do that. So if it doesn't feel relevant to them, they're just going to check out. They're going to check out. They're not going to pay attention in the class. So it's not just requiring the class. It's also making sure that it's really actually relevant and applicable to their real world experience, the real life that they live every single day. We have to be talking about Venmo, Cash App, Zelle, because that's what they use. And if you're ignoring those apps and just focusing on old school ways of transferring money, or go to the bank, or call your bank, or go, like, no, nowadays we have to be teaching them about the technology tools, because probably most of them already using this stuff. And so we have to show them that what they're learning is actually stuff that they're going to use immediately in real life, not just in some like 10, 20 years in the future when they're grown adults. They're already using this stuff, and they already make money choices every single day as teenagers. So we have to kind of connect it to that, connect the dots for them. And so that's why I think like this research of $100,000 per student is so important, because the more we bang on that drum, the more we let people know, the more people realize, like, okay, not only is this so important, the benefit of it for the next generation, but also the teenagers themselves will realize the benefit of this and will start speaking out. Like, this was the most beneficial class on my roster. Like, this was the most beneficial class on my transcript. We need them to start to say that. And then we need the research and the data being done to show that it's actually having a positive effect and an impact. So all of that comes directly from just one semester class, just one change that 29 states have already made and 21 more states need to make. So fingers crossed that some more of them start passing these laws soon, but only time will tell. Okay, let's take a look at some of your chats. Excel said, love what you do. Thank you so much. Thank you. I really appreciate that. I love what I do too. Honestly, like when I start talking like this, I can go on and on and on because I have very strong opinions about it. And you can tell. And it's very hard to keep fighting something that, like, sometimes it feels like you're not going to go anywhere and you're not going to get success, because a lot of people push back against it for adult problem reasons, right? They all know it's the right thing to do for students, but sometimes, oh, it's the adult problems. Oh, what about the master schedule? Oh, what about the teacher? We're gonna have to move teachers around from departments. Or what about the standards? And it's like, okay, all of those things are adult problems that can be solved. That's why y'all get paid, to fix those problems. Adult educators, and I mean, I'm a former teacher. I know I can solve those problems as an adult. That has nothing to do with the students. And this policy and this course is all about making the lives of the students better, making their future better. So we got to kind of, put aside all of the adult problems and focus on what's best for students. And then those other problems we could solve easily. Master schedule? Bro, how is that a problem? AI, just put the criteria into AI and go create 3 different master schedules using these criteria, and then pick any, mini, money, mo between one of those 3 schedules. That's not a real reason to not require every student to get access to this class. Like, to me, that's wild that so oftentimes adults say things like that as a reason why we shouldn't do it. So anyway, I'll keep going and going about my passion for this, but I really appreciate that comment. Jay Davis said, facts. Once I lowered my credit utilization, my credit score shot up at least 30 points. Think about that one little nugget. Just think about that. Because I'm not going to lie to you, when I got my first credit card, I just assumed that I'm supposed to spend what they gave me, because I got to show them that I could use it and then pay it back. So if the credit card has $1,000 on it, I'm going to try to, I think it's okay to try to spend $1,000 if I need to. And then as long as I pay it back, I'm good. Nobody ever explained to me that there's a whole category where 30% of your score, which is credit utilization, and the more you utilize of your available credit, the more it takes a hit on your score, the more your points go down and down and down. So if you just teach that one itty bitty lesson to students and they understand, oh, I shouldn't be even going close to my limit, I should be only spending a small percentage, a little portion of what's available, that alone becomes a habit for them over time. And beautiful chef's kiss for the credit score, right? So I totally agree. Like, those little lessons have such a big impact, and it makes a huge difference. And especially because a lot of times they go home and then they put their parents on. They'll go home and be like, Mom, you were complaining about your bad credit score. I found out why in school today. I learned that if you have a high debt amount that you owe on that card and it's close to the limit, it's going to take away a bunch of points. But if you log in and you make like a fat payment, you use your income tax refund check to pay off that credit card, and bam, within 30 days, your credit score is going to skyrocket. Like, that, the fact that they could go home and bring that to their parents and change and create this ripple effect and change their family's finances too, not only their own personal finances. So I do think that even though this is specifically for the students, there's a lot of other ways that other people and community members and family members will benefit from this too, not just the students. And let's be real, teachers as well, because a lot of times teachers are assigned this course and they look at the curriculum and they start learning it to themselves. They might have known some things about it, but a lot of adults, us teachers, we didn't necessarily learn it ourselves. So we're also learning along with it, which means that our own personal financial situation is getting better. We have higher savings rates. We go into our 403b or 401k and start changing around our investments to go for lower costs that do better over time, like saving more money. Like we make changes based on learning things in this class. By teaching the class, we get better as teachers too. So I really do think there's so many more benefits than just the obvious ones, right? Which is, of course, getting students access to financial education. Like that's obviously a good thing, but there's a lot of other benefits. Jay Davis said, it took me 25 years to figure it out. Woo! Well, I mean, look, I know you're not alone. I think there's a lot of people who probably took 20, 30 years to figure out, or even 40, 50 years to figure out their credit until finally they get it right. And it's unfortunate because a lot of times during that journey of you trying to figure it out, you still need things. You still need to get a car. So you're still getting a car loan. You still want to get a home. So you probably still getting a home mortgage loan. And all the while doing it, not knowing why your credit is so bad. And if you just knew before, you probably could have got a way lower mortgage interest rate. You could have got way better personal loan offers or general, car loan offers, right? Better deals if you just knew to set yourself up before applying. But again, it's one of those things. Yes, I'm so glad you said that. Jay Davis said, I'm so happy for these youths who are going to be properly taught personal finance for reals, for reals. And the thing is, obviously, there's going to be some students who are going to be like, oh, it's just another class on my schedule, whatever, whatever. But honestly, once they start listening just a little bit, the idea that you're learning about what the stock market is and that you can learn about what investment types you can buy inside of the investment accounts and you can grow wealth, like just out of curiosity, they're gonna be like, "Wait, hold up, what's this class about?" So even if at first they might not be into it right away, trust me, they start getting it hooked and engaged because it's a topic everyone is curious about: how to become a millionaire, how to become wealthy, how do the rich people, responsibly manage their money, what are some moves that we can make with money so we can make more of it, so we can protect our money. What are some ways to protect our money? These are all things that naturally as humans we're curious about because unfortunately everything runs on money. You need money for everything, so we're all naturally curious about money, how to make more of it and how to be smart with it. So once they start even just catching a few things here or there from their teacher, they'll start tuning in. They'll come around and they'll be like, oh snap, oh, okay, wait a minute, I really do want to learn this because it's going to hook me up and I can start doing this right now, especially if they have a job. Because remember, if you're a teenager with a job, you can take a little piece of your paycheck and put it into a custodial Roth IRA and start investing with double tax benefits, right? Tax-free growth and tax-free withdrawals for qualified withdrawals. So that's huge for any teenager to start investing that way. Knowledge is power. Yes, go financial literacy, 100%. Most kids are learning on the phone. Yep, 100%. And that's why we got to meet them where they're at. We got to talk to them about Cash App. We got to talk to them about Zelle and about Venmo. We got to talk to them about, hey, which apps are the safest? How do you know? Did you even read any of their terms and conditions? You know what you agreed to? Like, let's look at it. Let's research, because these are the things that they need to understand, especially security, online security, when it comes to your phone. So many apps nowadays, they'll ask you for all your information. People put their bank account information, their credit card, their debit card into these apps. So just making sure that they're cautious, because so much scamming happens on these apps and also just in general on the internet. So we just have to make sure they're aware of all of that too. Mike Moore says, this is my favorite subject to teach, life skills, 100%. And not only is it going to be your favorite subject to teach, but it's probably going to be the majority of the students' favorite subject to learn. Because again, most of the time when you're in a school building and you're sticking to that traditional curriculum, those traditional subjects, I know I've heard over and over and over again students say, when am I ever going to use this, miss? When am I ever going to use this information? And this class is the one class where I guarantee you will never hear a student say, miss, when am I ever going to use this? What do you mean? What do you mean? Every single day when you're trying to make money, every single day when we're thinking about financial decisions that we have to make, money is relevant to your life in so many ways, into all aspects of your life. It's what you can access in terms of where you live, how much you can afford to pay for that, for food, for, your lifestyle, for the kind of car you drive, all of these things, right? So I don't think there's anybody out there who would wonder, when in the real world am I ever going to use financial literacy education? Like, no. Trust me, we all know that it's so important and we get how relevant it is. So it's a class they're going to enjoy. Amazing. Facebook and YouTube helped me reach the 700 club. That's what's up, Curtis. Honestly, I'm so happy for you because I feel like for me, it took me a long time reading a lot of books and really like studying the 5 factors of credit and like understanding what I had to do. I wasn't like a process that I really enjoyed, but once I figured it out, I try to find ways to make it more fun. So I do think like if you can find videos or blogs or newsletters or like content creators that can teach you about this stuff, it just makes the whole process so much easier rather than like studying it just out of books. The books are so important, but I don't think it should be like the only way that we're learning because people are different, learn in different ways. Some people learn from auditory, from listening to podcasts. Other people learn from watching videos. They're more visual. Other people learn from reading. So there should be a mix of different ways that we all can learn this information. So that's another important thing, especially for schools. All right, dope. Let's take a look at Instagram and see if y'all have any questions over here because we were just looking at YouTube for a bit. Changing Season said, we watch your FinCap Fridays in our senior financial algebra class at Stadium High School in Washington. Thank you for watching those. So with NGPF, a lot of the work that we do is really offering, teachers the materials that they need to teach this class. So one of the things I do is every single Friday, I drop a new video, a short video, which is called the FinCap Friday. And it covers some type of current events or financial or business or money news and explains the topic. And then it has a little quiz for students to take. So like to check to see, did they understand? Did I understand the video? Did I know what the situation is? Do I know what's going on? And then they can talk about it in the class. So there's always the discussion question too. So if you're looking for like quick current events around money videos, there's so many of them. You could just go on YouTube and type FinCap Friday. There's so many. I've been putting one video out every Friday since August of 2018. So a lot of them are probably outdated by now, which we retire, but the ones that, we try to keep them up to date and like updated, or we try to also just put out new topics and new episodes like every week. But yeah, so definitely check it out. It's geared towards teenagers and even slightly a little younger, like also middle school teachers can use it. But yeah, I'm always trying to come up with different topics and think of different ideas for those episodes. Changing Season, if you ever have any topic ideas for me, let me know. Slide in my DM and let me know because I'm always at a loss, like just trying desperately to find a good topic for the next episode. As soon as as a one-on-one working in a high school, I learned a lot in that class. I never had a class like financial algebra when I was in high school, graduated in '03. Yep, I graduated shortly after you in '07. And I also did not get a single class about money management, about financial literacy, about personal finance, nothing, not financial algebra, nothing like that. Like, I wish, I wish I could go back in time and learn it because I made so many mistakes with credit cards. I had a really bad credit score. I paid a lot in interest on credit cards. I just didn't understand it. And again, I'm not so hard on myself, like blaming myself. I understand the root of the problem is that I was never educated about that topic. And my parents didn't have the knowledge even to give to me. So that's why I bring such a passion to the work I do, because I really do think that there's this huge problem that I experienced that so many other Americans are experiencing and that we have the opportunity to fix right now. So I really do think that that's like a major part of the solution. I don't think it's going to solve all the problems that Americans have when it comes to finances, because a lot of stuff is systemic beyond the education system, but it is definitely one of the parts that are in the solution. So we can't ignore it because it's part of a bigger solution. So I really do think we need to do more for these schools for sure. All right, let's see any others. Queen says they were campaigning today. New York City mayor. Yup. Look, I already know out there in New York City. I hope y'all all voting. Even if you're not too sure, you still have a day or two. Go and check out all of the different people on the ballot. You actually have to rank. You have to rank them. So that's a little different because I grew up in New York City. I've all the elections that I participated in before I moved out of the state. It wasn't it was not ranking for voting. It wasn't. Now you actually have to rank them. So just be prepared for a slightly different kind of a ballot and practice before you get there to make it easy. So you're not like confused and trying to figure things out and feeling awkward and under pressure. Just, go online and look at a sample ranking order ballot so you can kind of see like, oh, this is what I'm going to have to do, and be prepared before you get there. Because yeah, I definitely see that a lot of people are a little confused about the way it works now. I asked the campaigners to pass on the message. Yes, regarding this law for a semester of personal finance education. You know what, Queen? I love that you did that. I'm going to tell you the difference between the two layers of education. New York City specifically is just the 5 boroughs. right? So that doesn't include upstate, that doesn't include Long Island, that doesn't include really anything outside of the five boroughs. So in New York City, in the five boroughs, there is a strong recommendation to include financial literacy for a high school graduation. But the board of ed gets to decide, how is that done? And so what's going to end up happening is some schools are just going to put like a couple of projects in an economics class. They're just going to say, you know what, we're going to mostly be teaching supply and demand curves in economics, but then for like 2 weeks, we'll just do a project about budgeting and credit cards. That is not enough. That does not suffice. That's not a sufficient comprehensive financial literacy education, because they're not teaching investing, they're not teaching taxes, they're not teaching insurance, they're not teaching paying for college, they're not teaching banking. They're really only doing a little bit because they only have a little bit of time. So even though there's a start in New York City, the true effective way to make change is to have a full dedicated course of 18 weeks of continuous instruction dedicated for personal finance, so you can get to all the topics and make it a comprehensive class. So even though you're going to see a lot of people in New York City are going to be like, oh yeah, we already got that, we already require it. No, because it's not really like an A+ job. It's like a B- job right now, just allowing people to do it however they can. We really need a full course. And then the second thing about this is that that's just the five boroughs, but New York State is massive, it's way bigger. So you also got to include all the people who really need financial literacy education, who don't live in Brooklyn, the Bronx, Queens, Staten Island. It's really much bigger than just the five boroughs when you look at the state of New York. There's people up in Binghamton, there's people up in Rochester, there's people up in Albany who really need financial education too. And especially there's a lot of low income communities up there struggling that need financial education too. So even if New York City is doing a little pilot or doing a little something, A, it's not enough. And B, it doesn't cover the full state of New York, only the five boroughs in the city. So just some food for thought in terms of like, as we start getting the wheels going and the wheels turning in for New York, to try to think about how to do this next. Because when you look at the top 10 most populous states, you have California, you have Texas, you have Florida, you have a lot of really large states. New York and Illinois are the only two on the list of the top 10 most populated states in the US. New York and Illinois are the only two that do not have this law yet, that do not require a semester long personal finance class. So that means we have to really go hard on New York and Illinois. These are the two that we really need to see make this change, so that the top 10 states that have the majority of people in America, in those top 10 states by population, all will be like, check the box for every single one of those 10 with a dedicated class. So that's, hopefully a little bit of like pushing them to understand like why this is so important. Queen said, I mentioned NGPF. Is it their initiative? Amazing. NGPF is a nonprofit that is just trying to shine a light on the lack of financial literacy and help the problem by creating free curriculum materials and free, resources for teachers. Any teacher anywhere could go onto ngpf.org's website and just pull the materials, the curriculum, the answer keys, the homework assignments, the tests, the videos, all of the activities that you need to teach this class for every single topic, for banking, for budgeting, for investing, for insurance, for taxes, for paying for college, all of these, for credit, and 100% free. And it will always be free because it is a not-for-profit, which means it's structured completely for charity. So teachers don't have to pay for this. Schools don't have to pay for this. Families don't have to pay for this. Nobody has to pay. It's free. So I love, love, love the work that I get to do with the nonprofit, because I get to tell everybody, like, this is amazing. I wish I had it. And it's free. There's no reason why you shouldn't be using it, because it's free for you to access on the website. I love that you're sharing NGPF. I love that, because once they check it out and see what all is available, they're going to be like, they're not going to believe that it's all free. Like, that's how amazing it is. The amount of resources and the quality of it too is like really, really good stuff. All right. Max said most people don't even know the difference between the types of banks that they're comparing. Brick and mortar bank, for example, Bank of America versus an online bank like Ally. Facts. Most people have no idea. Actually, 2 videos ago on my channel, so like earlier this year in like January or February, I posted a video that talked about the different types of bank accounts. I 100% agree with you, Max. And I noticed that a lot of people don't know the different types of banks that there are. Like, they just don't know. They think all these banks are created equal when they are structured differently and the way they operate is very different. So I put a whole video out explaining the different types of banks. Some are online only, some are mobile phone only, some are brick and mortar, so some are traditional. Like, that is such an important thing to understand, because when you're going out into the market looking for a bank, you got to understand. Or maybe you would choose a credit union instead, but most people don't even know the difference between a bank and a credit union. So I think including all of this stuff as early as possible, like that has a lot of potential, not just the $100,000, which of course is amazing. $100,000 more over the course of your lifetime when you do get a personal finance semester course. Amazing. But there's so much more. There's such a ripple effect beyond you. And then think about generationally. Once you know, now you could pass it down to your children and to your grandchildren. Like that is the power of really having this knowledge and making sure everybody has what they need to make the best decisions for themselves and their families. So yeah, I feel you on that. I think everybody needs to learn those lessons for sure. Queen said, copy. I'm going to try to get the word out to anyone I can to nudge these politicians. Yes, you never know who knows who. Exactly. And that's why I always say, it does not matter who you are talking to. You never know who they might be connected to. And network is everything. So if you can offer free, honestly, the fact that it's free, like, it's always weird when I feel like when I go into these meetings and I'm talking to lawmakers or I'm talking to public policy leaders or I'm talking to education leaders, and I'm like, hey, this is why we do what we do. This is so important with financial literacy education. And the first thing they think is that I'm trying to sell them curriculum. And I have to immediately say, we don't sell nothing, baby. I'm not here to sell you anything. We have it. It's available for free. It's great stuff. If you want to check it out, check it out. If not, cool. Right. But if you're paying right now for an expensive curriculum that's costing your district or your school a lot of money, why are you doing that when there's a completely free curriculum right here that's 21st century relevant, that's online based, that has all the lessons and materials you need, that aligns to the standards that you have to teach? Like, it doesn't make sense to waste your school's money or to waste your district's budget. Like, it doesn't make sense. So I always start my pitch when I'm talking to people. I always start by saying, I just need you to understand this is a charity, this is a not-for-profit. Everything is free. We are not selling. There's literally nothing I can sell you because the training we give to teachers is free. The curriculum is free. The research report we put out every year is free. So it's kind of like, I understand why they're a little bit skeptical, because like, who's coming in here really trying to do good and not sell you anything? But truly, that is really what NGPF is. That's why I'm always like on my high horse about NGPF. And I work there, so clearly like I care a lot about it, but I also feel like I'm like a lifelong ambassador, because I have yet to find another organization that is not just talking about it, but is going to be about it. They're going to put their money where their mouth is and fully fund training for teachers and curriculum. Like, I don't see it. I do not see it. So if it's out there, hit me up and let me know so I can check it out, because from what I know, there's almost none. And especially free and not connected to any type of corporation that's trying to sell you something. Because that's the other thing. You have a lot of banks or a lot of corporations that they see that these states are requiring financial literacy, and they see it as an opportunity to go create a financial literacy curriculum and go promote it and say it's free. But is it really free? Because what you're doing is you're basically putting the logo of your company all over the materials, and then the students in the schools are getting exposure to your bank's logo or to the corporation's logo. So I personally don't think that that's really free. If you're using that as marketing tool, there's literally nothing to market when you go to NGPF. It is just charity. It's just free because nobody's making money off of anything. So that's another thing to be careful of, because I've had some teachers who write to me and go, oh no, there's a free curriculum from this company, look at it. And I'm like, okay, but there's corporate interest there. So just be careful, because what you want to put in front of your students should be unbiased. You shouldn't be pushing a particular company, bank, or institution, or you shouldn't be promoting any specific corporations when you're teaching them about financial education. It should be unbiased. You should be letting them to do the deep work. Like, they should be the ones that are comparing these institutions to decide which ones they like more. They should be the ones picking and choosing the decisions, not us putting it in front of them and saying, oh, this is what you should do. This is what you should know. And now you go decide what you should do. But I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm here to teach you, empower you with knowledge that you can then use to inform the decisions that you're going to make about money. So that's something I feel very strongly about. It should not be biased when we're teaching students about money. All right, let me see. I could probably take one or two more questions. Then I'll wrap up, because I've been going on and on and on. Queen said, is there a video that goes through how to navigate the website? Yes, just go on YouTube and look up the NGPF YouTube channel. I'm pretty sure I made the video actually, but if not, it was one of my coworkers at NGPF. But the letters NGPF stands for Next Gen Personal Finance. So just type that all out into YouTube. Next Gen, which stands for the next generation, Next Gen Personal Finance, and go to the YouTube channel for NGPF and go through the videos, and you'll see one that explains like how to navigate the website and all of that intro stuff. All right, y'all. I'm gonna wrap that up. Thank you guys so much for joining. I'll catch you at the next live. I'm live every single day. So if you have questions, just bring them and I'll catch you the next one. I think there was maybe one question I didn't get to, but actually, no, you know what? I do have time for it. Let's see. Also, the 100K lifetime in my mind is a great underestimation. What school does not teach you? Yes, that is an excellent point. It does not consider a lot of other things. And one last thing I want to end on is, even if it is, let's say, let's be conservative. Let's say it is $100,000 per student. How much do we have to spend to offer this class to every student? Nowhere near $100,000 per student. Because even if you hire a brand new teacher in the school to teach this class to all the students, right? That's, let's say $100,000 goes to the teacher for their salary, for their benefits, for compensation, for everything, right? That's one student. $100,000, that's one student that you're spending on that teacher versus the teacher is going to teach 30, 40 students. And if they have multiple sections, hundreds of students. So the cost of implementing something like this is so negligible compared to $100,000 times every student who will take the class. It is a no-brainer in terms of a lawmaker looking at the statistics and saying, oh, look at the odds. Like, what are the chances of us getting our return on this investment? Uh, yeah, you're definitely getting a return on your investment if you're putting in little to no money and you're getting $100,000 for every single student who takes this class. Now, that's money that's freed up for the students to use. But if they have more income disposable, that means that they can invest more, they can save more, they can purchase more real estate, they can spend more in the economy. So it comes back to benefit the state as well. Not that that should be the only reason why lawmakers make change. We should do it because it's the right thing to do, but also it benefits the state financially. So, I just wanted to mention that because I do think some people like to throw a lot of objections, and that's something that we definitely need to consider. Oh man, thank you so much for all the comments in the chat. Joseph Asrat, I really appreciate the comments about saying that you love what we've been doing at NGPF. You love the work I do. Absolutely love that. What school does not teach you? You want to help if you can. Definitely reach out. Let me know. I mean, the biggest way to help right now is really getting spreading the word and getting as many schools and school districts to know about our free materials. The more schools using it, the better. And if you live in a state that does not require financial literacy for high school graduation, we would love to get involved in having you reach out to your lawmakers, either a senator or a representative who's passionate about education, and talk to them, write them a letter, or call them, their staffers, and just say, I would love to come into the state house and talk with you and make my arguments, make my pitch to why you should file a bill that proposes requiring this class. A lot of other states are doing it, and there's tons and tons of research and data to prove that it works and it's effective. So it's about time for us to do it. So there's 21 states that do not yet require the class. And if you go to the NGPF website, actually, I think it's ngpf.org/dashboard. But you can look at this map of the US, you can then click on all the states and see which ones do offer it and which ones do require the course and which ones don't. So if you're in a state that does not yet require it, that might be something that you can help with, which is basically grassroots level advocacy. And that's always really helpful. All right, y'all. I'm out. Thank you so much for joining the live. And if you have questions, you can DM me on Instagram or you can email them to me, missbhelpful@gmail.com. You can also post them as a comment under any video that I have on my channel. And I'll catch the comments and capture them and then answer them in a future live.